Hey everyone. For those of you that may not know who I am, just in case this video actually goes past the people that I know, so to speak. My name is Vernette, and before I get into what I'm going to say, just to kind of get all the bits out the way, if you did want to connect with me after I said what I've had to say, I am on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at WOTR Now, or Women on the Rise Now is my my social media handles. Okay, so with regards to why I'm actually doing this video, it's about something that actually has been bothering me for like the last 24 hours. And I was actually going to send like a WhatsApp message to a few women that I know, because that's kind of what I do sometimes. Like if there's something that I'm coming across as I'm dealing with people, or just different things that I kind of have, or observations in relation to ministry, or just life in Christ, I do like to share sometimes, and can be a bit provocative as well from what I understand. But the reason for this is that in particular, I do deal a lot with young women in their 20s and some in their teens as well. And I had a particular situation where I was dealing with one of my girls yesterday over the phone, and the things that we were discussing were really, I would say that they're not uncommon. It's not things I hadn't heard before, but for whatever reason, when I got off the phone, it kind of stuck with me all until today. So I kind of just want to just share with our women in relation to just how to look out for our younger women. So to be brief about it, this young lady that I'm dealing with, she's around 18, and she was sharing just some difficulties or some challenges that she was having at work. And in particular, in her dealings with her colleagues at work, she told me of a few instances, about 2 or 3 instances, where there were men, colleagues at her workplace, that were handling her in an inappropriate manner. I don't mean that they were handling her or expressing themselves in a sexual way, but it was just certain things like the rubbing of arms and pulling her into their personal space and just making her feel uncomfortable. And you know, I'm pleased to say that she felt confident enough to assert herself and to go in each instance to each man and say, I did not like this, or she disapproved of their behavior. And with the exception of one guy that she spoke to, some of the responses that she got back were not the best. And the responses that came back made her seem as if to say that she was blowing things out of proportion, or that she was going over the top. Or in one case, one guy responded and said to her, oh, what, do you have touching allergies now? So I kind of took some time to kind of just input into her and to say to her, you know, I really applauded and supported her in her actually asserting herself in that way, and just to kind of reinforce and help her to remember that, you know, no one is supposed to make you feel a way about expressing when you disapprove about how you're being handled. It doesn't always have to get to a sexual point before we voice when something is inappropriate or we just don't like it. You know, nobody has a right to be touching us in an inappropriate manner or in a way that makes us feel like we're compromising ourselves. So I was just sharing those kind of things and just saying to her that it's okay to say no, and that when you are uncomfortable with something, or you don't like something, you do say no. You don't feel that you have to put up with it, and just kind of encourage her that obviously to come back to me and speak with me, you know, if she's kind of in those kind of compromising or uncomfortable situations again. Now, the thing I kind of wanted to raise though, or why I'm kind of sharing this, is because there is a rising trend now. I've kind of seen it after speaking to other people, just seeing it as I'm just out and about on road. But there is this trend now where it does seem that the whole concept of boundaries and respect for us as women when we're being advanced by men has really sort of like gone down the drain. It's very much on the decline. You do tend to see that interactions with male and female are not what they used to be, in the sense of there being boundaries and etiquette and appropriateness in terms of how we refer to each other, handle each other, and so on. And in particular, again, I'm not putting it all on men, but in particular in this age, you do see a lot more instances where men are making advances in ways that, you know, once upon a time, you wouldn't see that kind of stuff going on in terms of how they're advancing at women. And there have been instances where I was privy to find out that, particularly when I'm seeing maybe interactions with a lot of young men and how they approach girls, like the way that they're kind of stroking arms or touching, you know, legs and things like that. And it kind of seems like the female puts up with it, or it's like she likes it. You know, I was made to find out that actually it's not so much that she may like it, but she's responding that way because there are instances where if females don't respond in a way that is deemed as being approving to the guy, then the guy can turn very unpleasant. So it sometimes becomes a thing where that young lady could be fearing for her life in some instances. So she kind of just puts up with it in the moment. And so what I really want to say is, for those of us that are older, if you like, in terms of having people in our environment, they're in their 20s or in their teens. There could be people that we are mentoring or discipling, or they can be just those that we, you know, maybe related to. You know, I just want to encourage us to just keep our eyes open. You know, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we kind of have to go in there and pin our girls to the wall or anything, but just sometimes just to just pay a bit of attention and listen and just be interested and just, you know, figure out how to make sure that they understand about, you know, their rights and their empowerment and the authority that they have as women. And that, you know, if anything, even if you don't relate to that person very often, that they know, or they kind of get a sensing or feeling that you could be that safe place for them if they needed another woman to speak to. So, like I said, it shouldn't have to be that it gets to some of the extreme cases where there are some of us that are going through or have experienced sexual abuse or sexualized behavior against. So it shouldn't have to get all there. It's the little things. It's the little things that slide in. It's the little things that affect mindsets. So sometimes the more that we as women kind of tolerate or just put up with certain things, the more that we kind of lower the bar or lower the standard as to what is or what isn't acceptable when people are handling us. And so I kind of just want to speak to some of us that are older or further along that, you know, let's figure out how to be more involved in the worlds of our youngers. Let's figure out, you know, by the grace of God, you know, by him giving us insight, let's try and figure out how we can be involved, even if it's just a little word of encouragement or wisdom to impart. That can sometimes go a long way in the world that we are living in, believe me. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share. And I also just wanted to say that again, this kind of stuff that I'm talking about in terms of our involvement, particularly in our involvement with young people, particularly if we are Christians or Christ followers, you know, this is actually one of our responsibilities. You know, it's biblical in terms of us as the older ones being an example. Because if we're not an example, then the younger women just raise themselves, and a lot of them, you know, they don't know who they are. You know, they may seem like they know on the outside, but on the inside, there's not a lot of foundation, there's not a lot of grounding, and that's why they need the voice of someone with wisdom. They need the voice of someone who's further along, who's even gone through some experiences and can share from a place of freedom as well. So I just want to encourage you to see or to think about how you can be that person. Obviously, you know, if I'm saying something here that prompts you to pray, then do that as well. If you haven't really got someone in your atmosphere like that right now, you know, do feel led to pray as well. You know, whatever this video prompts you to do, I just felt to kind of make a sound about this, because whether the young women that may be connected to us are in the church or out of the church, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that the standard needs to really come up again in terms of preserving just the beauty that is being a woman, in terms of actually taking pride and really just understanding the value that we have, and not letting these things, these situations, you know, come to kind of tell us or kind of speak to us in a way that causes us to devalue ourselves or look at ourselves as being any less. So yeah, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Take care.